How do I increase my confidence? I say, well, take stock of the things that you've done that you're proud of in your life. Everyone's journey is unique. And what I really want to leave people with is you're never starting over. You're taking all of these life experiences and you're using that now as your new baseline. True connection is taking the initiative and reaching out to people.
Over the course of my life and career, I've discovered the power of consciously investing in mindset and personal development. It has been a true game changer for me in my personal and professional life, and I'm extremely excited that you decided to join us today to take one step forward in your own life. Most of my breakthroughs have come from one-on-one conversations. We created this show to bring you those unfiltered conversations each and every week. Good morning and welcome back to the Connected Mindset Live. I'm your host, Greg Tomczyk. Thanks so much for joining us here for another incredible conversation to help you better connect with the world around you. Really looking forward to this one. But before we get there, today's episode is presented by Blokes. That's Blokes. And Blokes is a diagnostic and men's health company, specifically around understanding where your chemical makeup and some of the things that are going on in your body stand. As a former athlete, I always ask my coaches and the great PhD doctors that were around me, can you give me a test to tell me why I'm tired or why I'm feeling this way? And they always said, yeah, we can take your blood and it's probably your cholesterol or something of that nature. And most of the time what I've found is there's chemicals nowadays that we're coming to understand as a society that helps us bring a better person into the world, because we're now able to tailor our health to ourselves as opposed to the generalized person. And we're going to dive into some of the things today that help you understand yourself a little bit better. We try to do that on each episode of this show, but this is a really special one because everybody needs this to be elite, to be their best self, to bring their best self to the world. So really looking forward to it. We have Mr. John Mollura with us. John's coming to us from Delaware and
Yes,
just a couple states away from where you guys know I am, and definitely looking forward to diving in. So John, how's the morning going, and how's Delaware this morning?
Little frosty, frosty, which is wild. It was 70 degrees, I think, on Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
And yesterday when I met my guys to work out at 5:15 a.m., it was like 28.
Yeah, that'll get your nose and ears nice and I guess woken up. So I definitely feel that here as well. John, one of the ways we like to start the show, as opposed to giving a full background, because you have an incredible one, is what mission are you on and why?
Yeah, so as the author and speaker Rory Vaden says, you're best suited to serve the person you used to be. Mm-hmm. So the person I used to be, despite being very successful to the outside world looking into my life, I worked in the space program. I led test operations for NASA and Department of Defense across the planet. I was a legit rocket scientist, but I just didn't have the confidence to really enjoy all those accolades that myself and my team earned. I just felt so unworthy of whatever I earned. And I'm on a mission to help people really understand that they do have worth and how to help them build their confidence, and not just like build their confidence so they can get through the day, but take it to an elite level so they can take that back into their families, their workplace, and their communities, and serve others at a very high level.
Yeah, I love it. I think more people need it. The conversation doesn't take place, we know, in the workplace, especially because it's grind. It's, the projects are behind and, things need to be done. I mean, for people to think about and wrap their mind around rocket scientists and where everything's headed in space. You were very early on in an innovative role where you were expected to meet a certain level. You met that level and probably exceeded it, but it's never enough. When you're not self-worthy from the inside out. And I saw that in professional baseball. Even the people that were making multiple $1 million a year, they were eating steak and eggs for every meal. They were caviar. They had everything that they needed or wanted in the world when they were growing up.
Mm-hmm.
But inside they were broken. They didn't
Yeah.
know who they were. They were going through the ups and downs of, if you won a game, everything was great. If you lost, you were in a corner in your hotel room, crouched up, trying to figure out what was wrong. And there was never that even keel. And I think
Yeah.
when I think of confidence, I think of that even keel to be able to, trust yourself, whether you win or lose, that you have that internal compass to say, I kept the promises to myself in this situation, and that allows me to be adaptable to any situation. So I'd like to start, with recognizing that mission. What is confidence to you today, and how has it evolved since you kind of recognize, hey, this is an issue.
Yeah, I mean, at its core, it's I always talk about whenever I'm giving a keynote or a workshop, the difference between confidence and arrogance. Because so many times when someone hears, "Oh, that person's really confident," a lot of times the association is it's negative. Like they're going to be overly confident, and that's where it becomes broaches into the topic of arrogance. Confidence, like you said, is you have a sense of self-worth. Despite what's going on around you, you know that you're showing up as someone who's true to yourself and true to your values and true to the people that you're there to serve. And you're not you don't end up crouched up in a hotel, you know, chair crying if things don't go right, because you have that innate sense of self-worth. Arrogance, on the other hand, is people using outward power or influence or status to usually like belittle people or exercise some type of control over others. So that's arrogance. So
Mhm.
confidence to me is, like I said, just having that innate sense of self-worth. And you touched on it too, like staying true to yourself. Like if you did the reps and you did the work for whatever it is, you and I are both athletes. I was never at the level you were, but I an athlete my whole life. um when I was in competing martial arts, it's like, did you train hard enough?
Mhm.
If not, then you're going to get knocked out.
Yeah.
So, but there's a difference between losing a match because your competitor was better than you, and there's a big difference between losing a match because you showed up unprepared.
Mhm. Yeah, there's so much transferability between athletics and operating at a high level, whether it's military, or we're doing sports, you're in a dojo. Like, there's so much transferability that is underestimated by people who have done these practices, because every time they get put into a new environment, they feel like they have to rebuild their
Right.
self-worth and confidence because you're proving it. You want recognition. When you get the recognition, it's thick and then very empty, right? It's like, oh, that feels good. It's a dopamine hit. It's a chemical hit that feels really good. And then it's like, oh crap, well, what's next? And
Yeah.
people are chasing those chemicals each and every day, and it's so unsustainable if you aren't able to establish that this is my baseline confidence that I need. I know I did my preparation because I have a regimen and a routine. And I think that's like the life athlete, like the business athlete, the personal athlete, the family athlete, the person that just practices things they know should be um, in alignment and congruence with their true self. Diving a layer deeper into self-worth. So I think people need to have that self-worth to have confidence,
Hmm.
to some extent. So with somebody listening in that's trying to figure out, where they are in life, what's next, how do they adopt that self-worth, and what conversations do they need to have to start identifying who that true self really is?
Yeah. One of the things, especially people that operate at a high level and elite levels, don't do is they don't pause and celebrate. And I was notorious for this. Like, you work so hard on whatever it is, whatever, project, or, planning your family trip, whatever it is, you work so hard on it. And then when the actual thing happens that you've worked so hard for, you're already on to like the next like two things. And you don't even pick your head up and call a timeout and like celebrate. And one of the things I always encourage people to do, I always say, because I get this question all the time. Okay, well, John, how do I increase my confidence? I say, well, take stock of the things that you've done that you're proud of in your life. And people always kind of look at me like I have three heads when I say that. And I say, what you need to do is really take stock of the things that you have done in your life. Like, set a timer on your phone for 10 minutes and type a note in your phone. I have a Google Doc. I call it my archive of awesome, where it's things that I'm proud of. And yeah, there are things on there like, being part of teams that successfully landed something on Mars, for sure. But there's also little things on there, like the fact that my teenage daughter felt comfortable enough to come and sit and like have a cup of coffee with me for 2 hours and just talk about all the things going on in her life. Keep track of all that, because our brains are so hardwired to remember the negative, right? My buddy Arthur always says, pain is a great teacher, and he's right. Like, we remember those lessons, especially if they're painful. But we're not so good a lot of times at remembering the positive things. That's why I always tell people, take stock and write down things that you're proud of in your life, not only to remind you of things, but also on those days when you wake up or you're in a new situation or you're in a difficult situation, you're like, man, I don't know if I got the skills, the strength, the smarts, whatever it is to be successful at this. You can pull that list out and just glance through it for 30 seconds to remind yourself that you can do hard things. And here's the actual proof of it.
Yeah, I love that archive of awesome. I think everybody needs one of those. Yeah. Because we stack medals, but sometimes those aren't what we're striving for, right? We're striving for those relationship breakthroughs, or the things that put us back in our seat on when our kids do something that we never thought they would do, or like have the confidence to do. And I always think back to like the leadership point, because I have young kids, so I'm always, and I have a company, so I'm always thinking about like how I can become a better leader for my family, but also for my team that I lead. And when I think about the best leaders, the best coaches I ever had, even in minor leagues all the way down to little league, most of the time they started this discussion on, I'm very proud of you guys for what you've accomplished up to this point. I really like how you guys, lost that game. Like, I really like how you guys handled that. And then it's, in order for us to improve, we need to do X, Y, Z. So it always felt very, if they had confidence in us, we wanted that validation, then it was kind of a mirror to us to go out there and be confident. We knew no matter if we won or lost, that at the end of the day, they were probably going to come back with something similar of that nature to reinforce why we needed to kind of stay the course. And that was very revolutionary for me. And, I think it's not really about the accolades, but it is, about things that you feel are awesome, right? And not necessarily the society. And I think that's what a lot of us battle with, is what is societal norm of confidence and self-worth versus what is yours. And, how do you help folks differentiate between the two? Because it's such a magnet to go toward what society thinks is successful and worthy.
Yeah. That's where it's a muscle that gets improved, like anything. The more you do it, the more you're going to have that resilience and that strength. So as far as like having things that the world sees as important, like really take stock of something and say, is that something that I truly value? Because, you know, behind me to all the stuff behind me on my wall, it's all there intentionally. That's my like a visual archive of awesome for me. Like there's letters of commendation from the Department of Defense behind me, and you know, over one shoulder there's stuff from Homeland Security and NASA. But right next to the Homeland Security thing from the project I worked on is this little tiny bronze medallion about the size of a nickel. And that is a third place medal I won when I was like 7 or 8 years old, you know, for a Pinewood Derby race that my dad and I built this little car when I was a Cub Scout.
Okay.
And like I just remember being so proud, but it's hung right next to, you know, these accolades that the world of course would laud. But a big differentiation is I don't get my value from those accolades hanging behind me. Like it's not like I look at that piece of paper back there and I'm like, oh, I have value because the Department of Defense said, you know, gave me an attaboy on a piece of paper. What those things represent, and this is a critical difference between not gaining your value from your, you know, accomplishments, but those things represent that I can do hard things. You know, those things represent that, and as a reminder to me that, you know, I can lead teams. I can make decisions when I'm physically exhausted. You know, I can keep people safe and put others, you know, well-being ahead of me, just regardless of how tired or far away from home I am. You know, so that's a big difference. Don't get your value from your past accomplishments. Let them serve you as a reminder of what you can do and you're capable of and what you can build on in the future.
Wow. Yeah, that's so tangible. Like that's something I haven't really heard before. Like you serve that goal for so long, and then when you achieve it, it just kind of goes to sleep, right? But
Right.
if it can resurge your soul when you need it and resurge everything you're doing, you know, that's where you get the real benefit from actually going through that. When you were talking through that, I think about like the day I got drafted, how much I prepared, how much time and money my parents put into it. And when I got the call to be drafted, I basically turned to my parents and just like kind of waited for their reaction because I wanted to, like, that's why I was doing it to some extent. That's
Mm,
why I felt like I was doing it in that moment. Like it was kind of like a light bulb moment of, you know, I was doing this to satisfy them, but it's something I enjoyed doing. So it's kind of like when they're happy for it, like that's something that I really like wanted from that situation, was like them to be happy that it happened
yeah.
for me, and to be happy for me that it happened. And it was kind of that give back. So I think those types of small situations make me realize like some of this stuff is bigger than us, but it starts internally of how we are processing things. And that can be a little confusing for folks, but I think when you talk about it reserving you and kind of resurging your soul, when I was going through those games of losing, or when I got released from baseball, I knew when I came back from being released and looked at them and they had the same, you know, proud face, it just took me back of like, holy cow, it wasn't about that whole process I just went through for 3-4 years playing. It was the connection to those people that I really care about, and you know, how it made them feel for me to succeed. And I think that's the resurgence that I got in my soul of like, this is, you know, much bigger, which I think you hit on uh, pretty well there.
Yeah, yeah, thank you. And I heard something just this week with one of the guys that we work out with. You know, part of it, whenever, you know, it's always peer led, the group I'm part of, and whoever's leading the exercise for the day, you know, to give everyone a breather during the exercise, about halfway through, they share something that is to meant to help us grow as men and leaders. And what my buddy Arthur shared this week really struck a chord with me. He said, you know, we're put here on the planet to love people and use things.
Yeah.
We're put here to love people and use things. But so many people get that backwards. You know,
Yep.
they
Love
love their
things.
things and they love their things so
Yeah.
much that they'll use people to get more things. So
Wow.
it goes back to building those relationships, and it's all in the way you approach life and approach your relationships that really create these lasting and powerful impacts, and also foundations, especially if you're a parent or a leader in your business or community, building those
Mhm.
strong roots to give people that resilience.
Wow. Yeah, that's definitely something that should take everybody back when they hear it, because we get caught in that cycle because we see the typical media successful, business or athlete. They have everybody around them that is kind of at their beck and call,
Right.
right? And I always wonder, how do they treat those people? Do they treat them well? Maybe they do, maybe they don't. But it's to accumulate only what society feels is successful, 10 cars or a big house,
Yeah.
whatever that thing is for you or for them. you know there's no it's like there's no moral compass to get there, to some extent. Like, that's what you're
Right.
showed and portrayed. And I think people need to have that conversation more of, you can really love people and give them what they want, and probably in return, you might get what you want. I think Zig Ziglar said something similar to that.
Yeah.
But he struggled for, I think it was like 30, 40 years. I mean, a guy that's extremely successful, a lot of books, a lot of speeches, a lot of authorships, and he's still being quoted because
Yeah.
he flipped that switch and realized, holy cow, I've been doing it all wrong for these 40 years. I've been just trying to use people to get things
Yeah.
as opposed to the other way around. So I'm definitely gonna take that as a snippet away from this episode, because
Yeah.
that's something I think people need to be continually reminded of, because it's
Right.
it's honestly going against the grain when
Yeah.
you take that route, which it shouldn't be, because it should be easy to really love people and just love them authentically, and then you know kind of use the things to help serve those people or help
Right.
improve the community.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with having things or nice
Mhm.
things or making a lot of money.
Yeah.
It's how are you showing up? Like, what's your motivation? Like, are you showing up just so you can get like a nice new watch or the iPhone, whatever they're at now,
Mhm.
16, 17, I don't even
Yeah.
know. Um, it's like, or are you showing up with a heart to help people, and any kind of financial gains are a fallout from that,
Mhm.
or a result of that.
Yeah. How do you think people make that switch? Do you think it's just more listening, less ego-led interactions? Like, what does that look like for John today? And it's something that constantly evolves for all of us. But with where you came from, where you are today, where you're headed, what does that
Yeah.
look like to really, just authentically serve people and be there? I know authentic, the word is used a lot and
Yeah.
it's kind of coined today, but just to be there and not be there to expect somebody to give you something or provide you something, but just show up.
Yeah. Sh- Being able to just show up and do my best,
Hmm.
not for recognition, but just because to challenge myself,
Yeah.
and for instance, I'm in a shift between business. When you and I spoke, I think in December initially,
Hmm.
the photography business that I've been running for a couple years, has been declining for any number of reasons. People are just trying to pay for their groceries,
Yeah.
not so worried about, a high-end photo shoot like I provide.
Hmm.
Um, so as the speaking and the coaching and everything was launching, it's like we still need to pay bills.
Hmm.
So my friends opened up a high-end grocery store, little boutique shop, and that's where I help. I'm actually heading there after you and I hang up today, and it's like I can look at it two ways. The negative way to look at having my my assignment be to assemble a shelf or break down boxes or mop the floors could be like, I can't believe I'm doing this. I was a rocket scientist, for goodness sake. And there are moments where like I've had those flashes like what's going on? But the way to flip that whenever I can catch myself kind of going down that negative rabbit hole is, I'm earning money for my family as things are in transition and the speaking stuff and coaching is taking off, which it is. But more importantly, like this is my friend's dream that I'm helping them bring into reality. So yeah, I'm mopping a floor, but I'm helping their dream, which they've dreamt about for years, to open this type of market, become a reality while they're out doing what they need to do to further their business and provide for their family. So it's not perfect, but it is something that if you stay continually aware of your thoughts and kind of where they're at, and being able to hit the brakes whenever you see them going in a negative way, try to think about the bigger purpose that you're serving. And that confidence again comes into play, looking at that archive of awesome. Yeah, okay, I did hard things. I led teams that worked on F-35. But the reason why I started working at that company has very humble beginnings. It's because my job was working on a maintenance crew pulling dead mice out of the toilets at a Boy Scout camp. And I thought, this is not how I want to spend my time. So when the opportunity came to teach rock climbing at a Boy Scout camp, I said, I'll do it. And they said, are you scared of heights? I said, yep. When do I go?
Yeah.
But because I was, willing to go out and change my own future, despite it being physically uncomfortable because I was scared of heights, teaching rock climbing is actually what got me to work in the space program. The guy who hired me and became my mentor was a former special forces operator in Vietnam. And he happened to be the lead test engineer for this company. And when he saw that I had, moderate book smarts, but also more importantly, that he could send me out into the field and not get myself or other people killed, most likely, that's actually what ended up working in the space program. So despite your current situation, there's always a way to spin it positively.
Yeah, I'm a huge proponent and something that gets me so excited when people make connections with their story. Like when you told me that when we initially spoke, and you've taken the time to do the hard work to reflect on the Boy Scout, the rock climbing, the mentorship, the position where you are now, and to have the perspective to say, I'm now contributing to something bigger than myself. I think when I think of fulfilled, when people say like success, fulfillment, I think of fulfillment as the cup is full and it's overflowing into other areas that are bigger than yourself. So it's
Right.
most people, their cup is maybe half full because they're doing something that is not really contributing to something that they see benefit from, right? It's like go, maybe to an office, or they're working for a company, or doing something where they don't really feel like they're contributing. And I think it's hard to have confidence when you don't
Yeah.
feel that. You feel kind of drained to an extent where you can never get that cup over to be filled up to the point where you can provide to other people. And I think you have to connect your story in that way in order to get to that point, because when you hit those hard bumps, bumps in the night, some people say, you have to be able to reflect back to that congruence and say, I've done a lot of great things. I was a professional baseball player. I've done this. And when I got out of baseball, I had to go through positions of like internships and things. And I'm like, why would I be an intern? Like I was a professional athlete, like blah, 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 all these stories that my mind was telling me.
Yeah.
But until I was like, holy cow, I'm actually contributing to, my mentor's dream of, getting his company to the next level and helping protect them and XYZ. Until I got to that point, I was empty and I was,
Yeah.
depressed, or whatever the word you want to put to it. But you have to make connections in your story. And if you can't do that, it's very hard to have aim and be able to know where you're going and where you're headed. If you don't know where you're headed, I guess any road can get you there, and it's hard to find that road. So
Yeah. Yeah. And when you become in a position of leadership where you can start influencing others and, steering the ship, so to speak. That's when it becomes really important to be able to communicate that vision for how we're helping others.
Mm-hmm.
Because for the first probably 10 decade that I worked in the space program, the company I worked for, the leadership, the vision was, we're here to help, protect military personnel, astronauts, and we're here to try to do what's next and see what's over that hill. And that was something that was celebrated. That was part of our culture. And then the company, the leadership changed. It was taken over by venture capitalists, and then it truly became all about profit. And it lost that, like you've mentioned a couple times, that internal compass of, we're here to serve others. We're here to protect those that are protecting us. We're here to figure out what's next, and to see what's out up beyond the horizon. To, if you're not making a bunch of money, why are you wasting our time? And that's ultimately why I left that job. I was just like, I can't operate like this. And that's why I ended up leaving. So as leaders, it's very important for us to, communicate why we're doing something, and to make sure you're communicating, make sure what you're doing is in alignment with your own moral compass and other people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's very, very difficult to do for a lot of people, because it's going out on a whim and taking a chance, and that's like the risk takers and the what do they say, the square pegs in a round hole, like the people that don't really fit the typical line of college, go work, become a manager,
Right.
kind of work their way up. And I think we need more conversations like that. When you look at the majority of folks, not really generalizing, but what percentage do you feel like are stuck in kind of an unconfident stance, I guess you could say?
Yeah. Oh man. Well, I think it is probably close to 100% in some area of their lives. Because a lot of times lack of self-confidence, like, it's very sneaky. I talk about it being like the inner saboteur. And actually on my website, I just launched it yesterday. We're talking right at the beginning of March. I have a quiz. It's like a one question quiz. Like, what type of confidence of a Hollywood movie character can you most relate with? And there's like one question there. And it's a bit of a spin, because it's not like you're Rambo because you're, super, you're super tough or whatever. It actually points out the blind spots for people, how we tend to sabotage ourselves internally. So it's like, one of them is, you know, I think the question is like, do you do your best work alone? And it's like, if you relate with that, it says, congratulations, you're like Rambo.
Yeah.
However, it points out how much hardship have you created for yourself, having this lone wolf, this soloist mentality. So to answer your question, I think most people are stuck at some level, whether their perfectionism is showing up and it's kind of damaging relationships, or it's having them stall out at work because they're never hitting their things, or maybe they feel like they need to, someone wants to launch a business, but they just keep reading books and taking courses and learning all the things and talking about all the things they want to do, but they never actually do it. They become an expert, but there's no action associated with it. So I think if people are honest with themselves, there are places that they're stuck, in some realm, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the first part of it is realizing, okay, I'm kind of stuck.
Yeah.
Now what do I need to do?
Yeah. Yeah, we avoid the first question, right? Because we
Yeah.
don't want to be stuck so bad that we're like, we'll just keep doing what we're doing, and hopefully it will get unstuck, by the
Yeah.
environment or by naturally. And
Yeah.
typically you have to kind of push the door open to get through it, right? You can't, it's
Yeah.
not going to open for you.
Yeah. And I always say, being stuck, it's a thief. Like it's going to rob you of your joy.
Yeah.
It's going to steal your potential. If you're stuck and you're not going after things, or you don't have the confidence to go after things, you're not going to go after the next thing. And then it's also going to cheat the people that we're here to serve if we choose to play small and not do the work on ourselves and do the hard things. So it's going to rob us of our joy. Like when I had very low self-confidence, when I got those letters of commendation behind me, I had like a panic attack before they gave it to me when I was on stage, because I was so sure that people were going to find out that I've been BSing them all these years. Imposter syndrome's in the news a lot, right? So, it's that feeling like a fake, which the root cause is low self-confidence. So, it robbed me of the joy of that experience in 2005 of getting that letter of commendation. Like, I don't even remember. I didn't celebrate it. I think I stuffed them in like a desk drawer for 15 years because I didn't believe I was worthy to have them. So that's why it's so near and dear to my heart to help people get unstuck and start building their confidence up so they're not robbed of that joy.
Yeah, it's coming to the realization that we don't know everything. And I think the ego takes over that confidence when we feel like we have to know everything. I had a moment probably 2 or so years ago where, in baseball, your coach wanted you to know the playbook. They wanted you to know everything. And there was a point in time where I was in a boardroom and somebody, I think it was the CEO of the company, asked me a question, and he kind of knew I didn't know the answer because he knew my background. We've had many conversations, and he was just kind of testing me to see if I would try to answer it with some, BS answer. And at the time I was doing some work with, a therapist. I was just talking about, some of the things I was working through. And, I was encouraged to be able to say, I don't know when I don't know. And it was, it would build better trust. And I basically said, in front of the whole group, I was like, I don't know, but I'll make sure to get back to you, tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
And everybody in the room didn't know how to respond to that. They wanted me to have the exact answer because, I was helping them do something security wise. And he came up to me after and he said, I kind of knew you didn't know that answer, but I was, seeing how you would respond because everybody was expecting you to give an answer.
Yeah.
And he basically was like, thanks. A lot of people on my team don't do that. He's like, I can tell with athletics, and you've learned a thing or two throughout the days, and but it just shows our confidence journey is always evolving. It's not an end state. It's not a destination. I still doubt myself today, and but it's having that core point where you can go back to and say, I've accomplished some cool things. I'm going to accomplish some great things in the future, and when things get hard, I know I can keep pushing because I've proven to myself, and I have that track record of trying to push through and then looking back and saying, holy cow, I pushed through it, and I didn't die, or I didn't hurt anybody else. So
yeah, I have that patch on my rucksack.
Right,
It says,
really.
"But did you die?"
Yeah, right. Yeah.
It's like, yeah, that sucked. That was tough. That hurt physically and mentally. But did you die? No.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I like the rucksack thing, and
Yeah, man.
it's so cool to choose pain. I think that's something that's been a focus of mine probably the past year or so, because I always chose pain in athletics. But it was because I had such a clear goal of being able to like throw, a mile an hour harder, or something of that nature. And when you get into, more of like a business life, and maybe you're on a run, like you're not thinking about, oh, this is going to get me to the next step in my business. Like you're not connecting that hardship to some type of athletic goal. It's kind of just like, I want to improve, so I need to push myself past my comfort zone. And then you build that track record of confidence. And I think that's where you positive stack and get momentum, and which I think is critical. Where do you, I put the quiz in the chat here as well as your website. So definitely want people to reach out. Where do you recommend people start with the quiz and kind of go from there? Where else should they, reach out? I think a lot of people have these obstacles they're going through. Most of the time they won't admit it.
Yeah.
But a lot of people are going through this in conversations that I have, and they're asking me, "Hey, what'd you learn from sports to make you more confident?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm not 100% confident. It goes up and down."
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
But you have to go inside. Like, you can't keep asking everybody else, how do I get here? How do I do that? They're going to give you their opinion. But I think one of the things that you're offering and providing the world that's unique is you can help bring somebody through that process like most people can't. So where would you say people should kind of enter into John's world to help work with them through that process?
Yeah, I love serving as a guide for people.
Mhm.
Yeah, I always tell coaching clients, like, right off the bat in our initial, like, free call that I'll do with them, it's like, "Look, I'm not gonna put more work into this than you."
Yeah,
Like
right. Yeah.
if you're not willing to put in the work, like, I'm not chasing you down, like, we're adults here.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, the great place for them to start is with that quiz. Yeah, it's meant to be a little bit lighthearted and funny. Like,
Yeah.
it's one question. It's gonna take like 10 seconds
Yeah.
to do. But then what that'll do is that'll put you, then that'll kick off a series of emails where I talk about, some areas where, confidence, how it really affects our relationships, our business. But they also get, as soon as they finish the quiz, they'll get an archive of awesome sent to them, just automatically emailed to them, just as a prompt, print it out, stick it on your wall, or like I said, use it as a prompt to create a note in your phone and take those 10 minutes to just write down some things that you're proud of. So yeah, definitely start with the quiz, see which of the five movie characters you are. And it's, it's geared for people, in their mid 40s. So lots of 90s, early 2000 movie references in there. Um, but yeah, that'd be a great place for them to start, and it's super easy, and then that'll kick off some other things to bring them into my system. And I'm getting ready to begin doing like weekly blogs, so all that'll be, launching here soon.
Excellent. Yeah, I think the words you're putting out, the resources, the exercises. These to me are all tokens to help people be elite. Everybody wants to be elite in their own way.
Right.
I think the most elite people go through the deepest holes in their life. I think about because it's been my path, professional athletes. I grew up in a military area here in Norfolk, Virginia, biggest Navy base, and we moved all
Yeah.
around military bases. And I've interacted with thousands of former military officers, and even they go through it. And I think everybody
Yeah.
needs to recognize that. They might have been 20 years, at the Pentagon, and they were at the, they were telling the president what they needed to do. But once they really take a step back, they realize, holy cow, I have a lot of things I still need to work on as a person because I've been numbing it with that status or role that I was in.
Right.
So I love what you're doing. I love what you're putting out. It's a unique message. A lot of people need it. I'm really hoping that the folks listening in, professional athletes, military leaders, anybody trying to do anything in life, anybody trying to break through to that next level to get themselves to their 2.0 self, the elite version of themselves, whatever they want to link
Yeah.
it to. I think this is really going to help them, and looking forward to getting this episode out there on YouTube and LinkedIn over the next couple of weeks, sharing some of the snippets. I think a lot of people like to consume those short kind of lessons, and we love to put those out for people to, as a reminder. It's kind of
Yeah.
that reflection back to awesomeness, and just kind of having that reminder in their ear, a coach like yourself, to say, hey, you might be going through a tough day, but here's what I can offer up to bring you back, down to earth, or down to your true self. So I think I really appreciate what you're doing, and want to acknowledge you for that, John. Anything else before we wrap things up and dive into the last question? Anything you want to offer up to the audience with how you're feeling today, what you think they may need to get to that next level?
Yeah. So everyone's journey is unique. And what I really want to leave people with is you're never starting over. You're
Mm-hmm.
you're taking all of these life experiences and you're using that now as your new baseline and your new foundation, and you're building from that. So you never really start over. And if anything really resonated from this, obviously my website, johnmollura.com, you can take the quiz. You can also schedule a free call with me. I'm just happy to talk with people and see kind of where they're at and hear a bit of their story. So, it's free. It's not salesy. There's no hidden trick. There's a button there. You can schedule like a 30-minute call on Calendly with me. And I just love to hear people because in my professional career, I went all across the world from Antarctica to England. And that was always one of the things I loved doing, was talking to people and just seeing the different points of view. So I'd love for people to reach out. And if nothing else, get started with that quiz.
Excellent. Yeah, I definitely recommend everybody goes that route and reach out to John. It's cool to share stories together, and you'll definitely learn something from John's story as well as I have throughout the various conversations we have. John, so one of the ways we like to wrap up the show, we put together this show each week because we want to help people better connect with the world around them. This is obviously a key piece for that individual to bring their best self, to the world, to better connect and love people and use things, which I love that line. What is being connected? What does connection mean to you today?
That's a great question, considering, how on paper the world is so connected.
Yeah.
I think I have like 9 different messaging platforms on my phone that I use to talk with, my boss or, the church team. Like, there's so many connected platforms, but true connection is taking the initiative, I think, and reaching out to people. Just my 2 best friends and I, as life happens, we all got kids and, lives and jobs, and, life gets busy, but we try to reach out, make an intention to reach out to each other and just send like a text message and be like, "Hey, buddy, check. What's going on? How are we doing, guys?" So connection doesn't just happen, right? It seems like it should, but be intentional about it. Take the time to, send your significant other a text message and be like, "Hey, just thinking of you," or "You look nice when you left today." Be intentional about connection. Don't assume it's just going to happen because we have all the tools to make it happen. Be intentional about connection.
Yeah, I love that. That definitely resonates, and it's a cadence, and it's an intentional cadence, and we have to establish it, or we get lost in the connected web of the shallow connections. So I love that depth, and I think it just represents the way you approach the world and look at everything around you. John, thanks so much for joining us. Definitely looking forward to continuing the conversation, and keep up the great work.
Awesome. Thanks, brother. Thanks for doing what you do, Greg.